I believe so.
I get mom to sew this screen. Don't have much more in her. How it's staying up now is a miracle.
If you shop on Amazon, you should use Wiki.
What are you looking at? A coffee maker? Who drinks coffee in your house? We can talk about COH on this at all?
That's up to you.
No, it's not. It's a double person thing. Because yours is worth at least as much as mine. I was leery of this category. It'll be mostly I'm going to basically interview you about VR, and you're going to be giving everyone the details, and I'll talk a little bit about what I've got there. I brought my little gimmick. That wouldn't fit in. Texted. I was going to see play a good text adventure. Oh, rhythm games. One.
People would be more interested in text adventures, but I'd be more interested in rhythm games.
Yeah, well, this is for the people, brother. Where it goes. They got to have their say. The clamor is overwhelming for us to cover. That'll make the video a lot of fun for me. There's the screen of text. The background, screen of text. Everything, screen of text. You good today? Thank you.
It fell off last week. At least last week.
Oh! Hello, everyone. It's Brent. Good God, no.
Hey, Pixels.
Hey, we didn't miss anybody.
I know you're crazy surprised, but Aaron's late.
No, that's who was here at 9 minutes till. It wasn't me. I was out here setting stuff up.
I was here 20 till.
No, you were not. I looked at the clock.
All right, I left the house at 20.
Okay. Don't lie to Pixels at Dawn. He knows. All knowing, all seeing. Pixels at Dawn. Oh, I should have brought him in. I knew I forgot to bring something. We got 2 sets of coins in the mail this week.
Oh, you should look at the poster, too.
Well, I will. I forgot you had it until you just pointed it out because I was so busy getting stuff set up. But we've got to send out these arcade fun packs this week. So we've got to decide what we're going to be put in the fun packs. We'll talk about that when we're done.
Should we reveal the poster live on pre-show?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
You'll have to turn off the green screen for a moment.
Why is there green in it? Just asking. I'm just asking. I'll move to another camera shot. I think we got another one here. Yeah, sorry about that. Sound's back.
So all your praise fell on deaf ears.
Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, that was awesome. I don't know if you heard how enthusiastic I was about that tremendous piece of art, inspired by a glorious listener who one of the 3 winners in our arcade challenge. We have, I think we have everything together to get everybody's arcade goodies sent out. Right? We've got.
You have everybody's addresses?
I do have everyone's addresses, and we'll talk about that on the show. But yeah, that's really good, Brent. You did a good job, dude. I take back half of what I said about you.
It'll be up to you to decide how we're gonna. I mean, I can't physically touch the top of this rope.
Oh, we're gonna have to get a step ladder for that.
I think you're gonna get more than a step.
Well, I mean, a tall step ladder, yeah, and then we're going to figure out how we're gonna actually physically
attach it.
That's a big boy. I don't know if magnets. I mean, magnets would do it, but
42 by
actually
62.
Magnets up here would be better because they've got you've got it's a flat surface of the magnet would be working. The problem we had was going sideways with the magnets. That makes it a lot harder. So.
Take your word on it, sir.
Well, I mean, listen, I pass on me, man. I don't know what to say. It's outside, creepy. Let's see here. I figure we'll just like the plan. We'll do a little Q&A about this, and we're gonna. I can see the opening segment being the longest segment. I don't know how much your game is.
I've got tons.
Oh, okay, great. That's tremendous because I don't have that much, and I'll explain why. I mean, I've got some, but
all right. Well,
I'm going to record any sort of test run here. Okay, that sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, Terry's been in Florida this weekend.
Okay.
She's sending me these different pictures of places she's eating, and she's up on the beach. And I'm not much of a beach guy, but the beach on there is freaking beautiful.
Why did you didn't go because of work?
Yeah,
you get vacation at work.
Very few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very few. Yeah. I mean, I had to take a half day to take her to the airport, and then a full day to. Well, I didn't have to take a full day to pick her up. It turns out.
Which airport she fly out of?
Charleston. But she left at. I was up at 3:00 in the morning, getting stuff ready to go.
Oh yeah. Well, at least when you fly to there, it's not too big a hassle.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, you're ready for some virtual reality, brother. You know something, brother. Boat's been watching the worst pay-per-view of all time this week and talking about it. He loves it. It's like it was made for him. It's got all the worst wrestlers. It's got Iron Sheik. It's got Abdullah. No. That was actually a pretty good show. This is the Legends of Wrestling, the notorious Legends of Wrestling pay-per-view. Kim Justice did a documentary video and it was really good. Okay, Brentster. Ready to do it?
I start with the goggles on.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I thought about doing that myself.
Yeah, you'd mess.
Oh yeah, what are you, Harvey Korman? I don't think so. Or my hat. I have to wear it. With the visor off the front, that looks real creepy.
What's wrong there?
Stop! We should use that. That's a good bit right there. All right, you ready to do it?
Yes. Ish.
Yeah, we're going to give us way more time this week. 3. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined alongside a man who's virtually out of his mind. The Brent. Take that off.
Hey, how's it going?
Give me that. What are you doing? So, if you watched the show last week, we spun the wheel. We made the deal. And this week, Brent, and I know you're excited about this one, we'll be taking a tentative step into the mystical land of virtual reality. Virtual reality games, Brent.
Yes.
So,
by far the most modern and also retro thing that we've covered.
Absolutely, because the funny thing about modern virtual reality games that I have noticed is it is a very retro gamey sort of affair.
Well, we've talked about this before in the past. Anytime that you bring on a new technology, you have to kind of, everything reverts back to when gaming first started, and you take your baby steps from there before you really get up and going.
Much like the Wii did when it first came out. It was a new technology, new controller, and so in fact, the Wii and the VR share a lot of similarities in that the games are often broken down to smaller, like mini games. That was a lot of what you first started with. The Wii had you doing mundane stuff with the controller, like cooking, stuff like that, which I see a lot of in virtual reality as well.
Well, and even besides that, the resurgence of VR has went back to lower polygon count visuals, mainly because it has to, while we build up the speed to be able to run more impressive stuff. But also the clean lines and stuff like that in VR, it makes a big difference.
So we're going to just have a little Q&A here, basically, about VR. Brent here happens to be well versed in VR. In fact, he's the go-to guy for all of our
that might
buddies.
be a bit much. Okay.
No, you are.
Around here, sure.
And so I guess the first thing I want to talk about is the dream of VR. Because when I was a young lad, VR, which we didn't really have a name for it, but it was more like we thought of it in terms of sort of like a simulation room, like in Star Trek. You know,
yeah, an alternate reality.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where you would step in, and of course these are pie in the sky dreams at the time. But we had, even when I was younger, I had heard of virtual reality and the promise that it had, and I'm talking in the early '80s. But did you remember the first time you even heard the term VR, or what got you interested in it, or were you interested in it at all as a young lad?
Oh yeah, I sought out VR arcades in the '90s, where
I guess you didn't find too many either.
No, yeah, I've actually played quite a few of the early type of VRs where you're standing in the circle pod, and the visor weighs a metric ton, and it's laggy, and the visuals are low quality, and I loved it. And I would go to other places. In the late '90s, you could go to places where you could do virtual hang gliding, where you actually got into the hang gliding like stocking, and you would lean forward and put your head into a little visor thing and do that. And then you've got your environmental VR, where it's not as much about putting on a headset, but you put yourself into a position where if you were actually in this thing, that's where you'd be. Like Mech Warrior type games, where you're in the cockpit and the screens are around you. So it's not a true VR in a sense that you have goggles in your head, but it is a VR because if you were in a Mech Warrior battle suit, that's what you would see.
I went to a one of those Mech Warrior gimmicks up in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Was that where you went to it?
Yes, I told you about it.
Yeah, and I was very disappointed in the virtual reality mech game.
I loved it.
And it was pricey. Because one thing's for sure, VR, even back in the 80s, it don't come cheap. It's an expensive affair.
And when you go even farther back into the early 80s, or I guess this would be mid 80s, Mom and Dad would take me to the mall and ride the simulators.
Yeah.
And part of the simulator gimmick was they also had really primitive VR goggles that you could put on. And this was a touring thing. They would go to different malls, stay for a couple weeks, make their money, and then move on. Well, you don't see that stuff anymore. But you could put on the virtual goggles and look around a landscape. You couldn't move. There was no game. It was just put it on, look around.
So this was like the predecessor to like those NASCAR simulators and whatnot, where you can.
Well, the simulators, it's more of the ride type simulators.
Because I remember going to Kings Island, which is a local amusement park here in. Well, it's not that local. It's 2 hours away. It's in Cincinnati. But they had the old, and Disneyland had these too, where you got on the ride and it would sort of shake you around, and the screen looked realistically, So that's sort of a VR, a non-personal VR.
Right.
You know, I rode the Star Trek Experience ride in Vegas. You recall that?
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome and pretty cool.
And those are more simulation VR. But then you also have VR up through the console and computer ages. Virtual Boy, but past that, because everyone knows about the Virtual Boy. I'm talking about things that you plugged into your Jaguar. You plugged into your PC,
your Master System,
that
your Vectrix as well
was not VR. It was basically a screen on your face, but it shows that the interest has been there for decades to do this sort of thing, and it really sparks the imagination as you see the technology progress to a point where we are today, and it's only going to go more. You know, it's only going to get better. But the point it is that today is you can kind of sit back and go, this is what I wanted 20 years ago, and I'm glad it's finally here in some form.
Now, do you remember the first time you put on VR and thought to yourself, the technology has arrived, or has that ever happened?
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I put on my Vive, which is the HTC Vive, which is co-made with Valve, from Valve Studios that run Steam.
Yeah.
The visual effects in that, and it wasn't as much as you put it on and you're like transported to a new world, but when you put it on and you get into a game and you try to touch a ledge or something that isn't there because your mind is tricked enough. I mean, sure, you know you're still playing a game. Perfect example. I was playing pool. Playing a VR pool, and I was trying to make a shot, and your brain tells you don't want to clip through the table. I mean, if you walk right through the table, it's going to walk you right through the table.
Mm-hmm.
But your brain tells you, I don't want to clip through the table. I want to, I don't want to be inside this object. And that's very surreal until you experience it. Because you tell people that and be like, no, I'll just walk right through it. I'm worried about that kind of stuff. You don't. Your brain really tells you. But I was leaning to take a shot, and I was leaning so far that I eventually put my hand down to steady myself on my table, on the virtual pool table, and just about fell down. And it's crazy that your brain just gets so wrapped up when you're focused on a task that isn't I'm playing a video game that takes, dexterity and, you're calculating your shots. Stuff like that, you really get lost in the moment, and you can't get that kind of feeling from a normal video game.
I'd say for me, when in fact these little goggles here are my only actual trip into VR. The Gear VR that goes with a phone. I really enjoyed. I think the first time I really got into virtual reality was one of the little films. If you have little virtual reality things, you can go on YouTube, or you can go on like various online enterprises that have these little films they shoot with a 3D camera. And I was watching one where a fellow walks through an ice canyon, or with a bunch of group of people, and it was really the first time I really felt like I was there. It was an awesome experience. I think for me, the VR experience is mostly non-gaming. I enjoy the films. The sensation of being there is awesome, and it gets better every year. I think that's one area they've gotten a lot better, is the ability to know how to film this stuff, to make it look, and the technology improved where you don't have that big blank spot above you and stuff like that. It's awesome to be able to just watch this stuff and look around. I think the educational side of VR has yet to be tapped. And I think that going forward, I think that's an area that I think deserves a lot more attention. Yes. Virtual classrooms, or virtual settings that you can talk about from a historical perspective, or even mechanical, virtual, like take aparts of cars or jets or whatever you're training for. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Another thing I think it hasn't been really touched on that much is the ability to use virtual reality to actually be home or be with your family. I think there's an area there. When I was away from my family at the academy, when I was training for my job, it was lonely. It was real lonely. And I thought to myself, man, it would be awesome if we could all get together virtually. That's where it would, if everyone had a great perfect representation, you had like a virtual representation of your home or a place where you guys could like to go, and you could just hang out with them, and you wouldn't be there, but it would be the next best thing.
Sure.
Something like that. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in the non-gaming market that would be way more important than the gaming side.
Well, and it's being tapped. There's a program, I believe it's called Big Screen, that you can sit in a virtual theater and watch movies together.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you think, that seems what a waste of virtual reality.
I don't think,
but it's a way of social interaction that, especially if there's different settings. When you're in the movie theater, your brain kind of tells you need to be quiet. But when you're sitting on like one of the couch settings, or you're out on a patio setting, your natural instinct is to socialize and mingle and talk to these people. And really, the game that I picked has gamified the socialization, and we'll get into that later. And going back to education, I've taken virtual tours of museums, went to different monuments, walked around graveyards in England, looked at tombstones of people that I would have never even fathomed existing.
Yeah.
But the technology brought me there and made it real enough that I was interested enough to sit down, squat down, read this tombstone, and then you can click and get more information about it. You're right. It's one of those things where as the technology grows, the technology improves, as the headsets get wireless, which they sort of are now, as they get lighter, as they get higher resolution, less stress on the computer, there will be a time, and I truly believe this, when you go home and instead of turning on the TV or turning on the computer, you just put on your VR stuff, and that you do your entertainment and your game playing and all that stuff from your virtual reality goggles, even if you're not playing a virtual reality game, because you can do that too. And I've done that plenty of times where you just play on a virtual screen.
And we should go ahead. This is a good opportunity to talk to sort of the pitfalls of VR and some of the limitations. It's a good time to do it. So I don't see a time where that happens anytime soon, because inherently the use of VR is a pain in the butt. And let me explain. When I use VR, I have to, number one, make sure my son is taken care of, Priest is taken care of. Like, no one's going to give me a phone call. I have to have a nice quiet area where I can sit down, have some room to do it, which was have to plan ahead. Okay, that's not even counting the rig. In my case, it's my phone charged up or whatever. I know in a PC rig it's different. You've also got the hassle of all the extraneous wiring. Now, the one thing about the Gear VR is that there isn't any, but of course the limitations are much larger than what you've got. You have to make sure all the equipment's working. And then you get into something that I find quite irksome, especially when you're in the VR world. The VR world is not ready to be used in lieu of the non-VR world. And I'll give you an example. The game this week that I picked, I had to purchase in the store. I purchased it twice because for some reason it didn't work the first time. Then once I got it downloaded, or once it came up, it wasn't there. I had to go looking for the purchase. I mean, I was on the purchase screen, then I was gone. Then I had to go find the purchase, then I had to download it, and then I had to log into it. Then my controller was acting weird. Then it was the phone would overheat. I mean, this particular item, when you try to game on it, and I've had this happen to me several times, the Gear VR was not meant for any sort of strenuous activity. It just isn't. I don't like the interfaces in VR. Plus, you talk about coming into your house and just kicking back on the couch. You're not going to do that in VR. When you come back and kick on the couch, you want to have a cold one. You want to have some chips. You know what I'm saying? You want to maybe flip through the channels. It's not the same in VR. You're going to come in. You're not going to see jack squat. You got to strap a heavy doodad on your head. Now, will they get lighter and smaller? Sure they will. But right now, that we're not there for that. Then you've got, on a lower end rig like I've got, you've got the phenomenon of what they call screen dooring, I believe,
right?
Where the screen looks real kind of fuzzy. in some, but where you see like a grid pattern. I guess that's just the resolution of the screen that causes that. So those are just some little things that I come across. Really I can get past everything. It's just the amount of time it takes to sit down and get everything working and get everyone cleared out so you can have the time to do it. And that's the hardest thing for me. And I think that makes it inherently antisocial as well.
No, you're looking 5 years ahead when I'm looking 30 years ahead.
Okay. But you can't deny those problems do exist.
Some of them definitely do.
Yeah.
But some of them have already started to be overcome. For me, picking a game, once you put on the headset, you tell your computer, I'm playing VR. You put on the headset for the Vive, you're instantly kicked in. You're into a setting where you have all of your games out in front of you. You can pick them. That's no problem. The games load up. So in a Vive PC world, that's not an issue. Space. I have a dedicated space to my VR. It's my VR/theater room. So it's got to be big and empty anyway. For me, it works out perfect because it's a dual-purpose room. Plus, it's also my computer room. So I've already dedicated that space to VR, as well as other things. So that's not a problem for me. Is it antisocial for the people who are in the room with you? Yes, it really is. And I think that is one of the shortcomings of VR right now. You can kind of get around that with AR settings. Like the Vive has a front-facing camera that you can just click a few buttons and you see the world through a camera lens on your screen. So it's kind of like you're just seeing it normally, and you can talk to people, but they can't see your eyes. So it's weird. It's awkward for them.
Yes.
So yes, those sort of things do exist, and they are issues. But I think as it's not even the next generation for you and I, it's the 2 or 3 generations down from that. If VR becomes normalized, which right now it's not, but if VR becomes normalized,
you mean standardized?
No, normalized.
Explain.
Where it is normal to see someone wearing VR headsets.
Okay.
It's normal to see someone
walking down the street.
Right. Because look at this.
You're talking more of a Google Glass sort of thing.
No. AR and VR are going to go hand in hand. But here's something to think about. 20 years ago, if you saw an adult playing a Game Boy, you thought that person was weird. Because portable systems were for kids.
I'd say 30 years ago.
Okay, 30 years ago. I forgot how old we are. You're right, 30 years ago. Now, you see adults, kids, everybody playing, old people, elderly, playing games on their phone, and no one thinks a thing about it. Unless they are being obnoxious or they're sitting at a dinner table or something. If someone's got their phone up playing the game, you don't think a thing about it.
You're right.
Because it's become normalized.
You're right.
And eventually, if VR continues on the path towards perfecting what's going on, making the technology better, I think VR will become normalized because I think it will become an important part of life.
You may be on something. So let's shift gears here and talk about. You've had 2 separate VR builds or 3 at your 2.
I've had both the Oculus. I've owned both the Oculus and a Vive, which I currently still
as
own.
we spoke about earlier, one thing that struck me was the amount of very simple, almost cartoony, mini game based games, and which those will get your foot in the door. But you're not. That's for me. That's not a full on game. So I guess what I'm asking is, where are we in what? I know we're still sort of in the infancy of gaming in VR, but what are the big titles that you like? What are popular, and what are some stuff maybe that you don't like but that are popular?
A few things with that. The reason why VR gaming hasn't went big budget is because there isn't the money to be made yet. Valve says they've been working on 3 VR games that are going to be full AAA, several hour-long story-arcing VR games. I hope it happens.
We've heard this for years, though, haven't we?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully that means they've been working on it for years. I don't know.
Maybe Duke Nukem Forever has a sequel coming out.
Now, you'll have indie developers that try to go deeper with the VR experience. They'll make more role-playing elements. You'll level up, that sort of thing, which where you have stories. You actually follow a story, but it's still, you're talking about a 2-hour experience.
Yeah.
Most of the games I've played that are 2 hours long. But the money just isn't there yet for large industries to really tackle it. The exception is Resident Evil. And the reason why they were able to do it with Resident Evil on the PlayStation was they had the game was coming out in non-VR as well, and they said, well, we can tailor this to VR, and they did. And while I've not played that game, especially since I can't even fathom playing it, I don't like horror genre in general, but I have watched plenty of people playing it, and their experiences and reactions tell a tale that they did it right. And it's very highly renowned as one of the best AAA VR experiences.
Now, something I've never understood is
Elite Dangerous. That is one that is definitely a AAA title that is fully encompassing. That's a great game to put in VR.
You've got a lot of first-person shooters. Your Doom type games, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me, I've always wondered why we haven't seen more of these in VR, because it seems like a natural progression since they're effectively VR out of the box. I mean, why are we seeing titles? I mean, people love the Battlefield games and your Modern Warfare. And stuff. And why aren't we seeing that sort of game come out on a headset? It seems like a natural marriage, and it also seems like something that wouldn't be that hard to actually bring to the
and
format.
there are plenty of games that you can there are plenty of hacks and workarounds and tweaks.
But I mean a proper game.
No, but I'm saying there you can do that right now. The reason why you aren't seeing a lot of it new games is motion in VR is still an experiment. There are 3 or 4 different kinds of motion. You've got where you teleport to where you want to go, and that alleviates motion sickness for the most part. But it is very, it's not intuitive for the game. You're teleporting around. There are track controls where you can just go left, right, up, down with your thumb pad. That is crazy on your brain because your feet aren't moving, but your motion is moving, and a lot of people get sick off of it.
I can imagine, yeah.
There are walking controls where you move your arms like up and down, and it simulates walking. It's a little less crazy, but then you still have to use your touchpad or a control pad to turn left and right in most cases. So that is why you haven't seen a whole lot of those games. It's just they haven't figured out the motion control yet, and eventually they're going to have to track your feet or something like that, or track your waist to put better motion into games. But there are tons of shooting games out there that are virtual reality where you walk up, you're shooting somebody, someone comes around the corner, you can grab their gun and then shoot them in the head. That sort of thing is out there already.
Now, have you found yourself getting sick when you play these games at all?
There are times. One of my favorite games is H3VR, and it's all gun simulation. It's all about taking on shooting ranges, and you can go into. It's got realistic guns and realistic gun models, and you have to load your gun realistically and all that stuff. But walking around in it is crazy. So I still get sick when I walk around in games if I'm not using the teleport method. And it's not that I get sick, it's that I feel like I'm going to fall over.
Yeah.
And I'm a big guy, I don't want to fall over.
Yeah,
fall over bad.
I understand. Well, so we actually were tasked with picking a couple of virtual reality games. Now, I'll tell you something. This one is a real strange one because I don't know really hardly anything about VR, and I've only played one of Brent's rigs. Now, have you tried the PS4 one, by the way, before we move on?
I have not, but I've heard...
It seems to be the most popular one.
No, not by unit. Maybe by units sold. I'll have to check that out. I haven't checked it for
proper games as well. I mean, the PlayStation.
Oh no, I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong.
But I mean, it's made great strides, but it just doesn't have as many games as the PC, and it's not a quantity over quality thing. It's just you have to have a lot of experiences. But the PSVR, top-notch VR experience from what I understand. Yeah, I've heard it is a step below the Vive and the Oculus, but it's miles above Gear VR or phone click-ins because it still has proper VR.
Very good, very good. So, as I said, we're tested to pick a couple games. So I just looked around for mine, and I'll go ahead and start the dance this week.
Sure.
Because I've got some stuff to say. But I picked a game. I looked, I was like, I don't want to pick a dud. I'm like you, I'm not really into the horror genre. Although I've seen lots of good little movies and stuff. They're real scary.
Right.
I mean, VR can be very frightening. So I went with a game called Ultrawings. Brand, have you heard of this one?
I have not until you mentioned it.
Okay, Ultrawings. So I played this on my little Gear VR. I probably should explain what this is just in case. Gear VR, quite simply, is a deal where you plug your phone into this front area here. Yeah, Brent, demonstrate. And then your phone acts as the guts, the brains, the computer into your VR. So there you go. And then it can Bluetooth or have a dongle, and there are actually controls on the side here, horrible controls that allow you to do certain stuff in there. So that's what I used to play on. Now, I will say most of what I like to do with it, Brent, is the virtual Google Maps.
Sure.
I love that. Like you mentioned, I like to just look around the world. Something else I think is fun to do is to see where I'm going to be going on a trip. You know, you can look and you can see where the roads and stuff are, what it's going to look like, what the parking lot looks like. So I guess more of a real-world usage of VR there. But I do occasionally game with it. And I have played a few games on there, but I've never purchased a full-on game.
Sure.
And so this week I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull the trigger here, and I want to make it a good choice. So I went and looked around, and this game was highly regarded. Now, Ultrawings came out in 2017, which it came out on multiple. This has come out on multiple systems now. I know there's a PS4 version. I know there's a Windows PC version of this, and of course you've got all your various VR setups have a copy. So it's been pretty well spread around. When this debuted, at least on the PC, it was $25. I picked it up for $10, so that's not too bad. I hope I only paid $10 because, as I mentioned, when purchasing things through the Samsung VR, Oculus, where the heck store it was, something you're going to realize when you go into the land of, at least my experience, is that you're sort of confounded with so many different places to go to get VR stuff, and you're not necessarily sure. I have no idea who owns what I used. I mean, it was just on my desktop, the desktop of my goggles, and I used it.
Right.
So I don't know if it was. I don't know who I paid. I hope I paid him once because, like I said, it seemed like it didn't go through the first time. It's a single player game, and is a flight simulator of sorts. And it was billed to me as a virtual reality tribute to the classic Super Nintendo Pilot Wings game, which I was a big fan. I know you were a big fan of that one too. This game works for the Vive and the Oculus Rift, and it supports any number of controllers allegedly. I'll get to that in a minute. You get 3 different aircraft. You get a bunch of different islands to go on, right? You can, and you play this game, and as you play it, you earn money to get enough money to buy this stuff. The game starts you out. Well, I knew I was in trouble right away because it said it didn't tell me what controller to use, so I used the only controller I have of any quality that's a Bluetooth is my PS4 controller. World renowned for its awesomeness. Am I wrong here? It's an awesome
it's a good controller, yeah.
So I sunk it up to the phone, wham bam Bob's your uncle, turned the sucker on, and when you start the game, you are told to hit X and Y. Well, this doesn't have an X and Y, so I'm not 100% sure. It looks like this thing wanted an Xbox controller. That's what it looked like. The controller in game was an Xbox one.
Sure.
So I don't have that. So I just basically had to hit buttons on the joystick until I figured out what X and Y was, and they were like left trigger and square or something, real straight. So I knew, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And then, but you're treated to an interesting view. You're basically start off in like an office at an airport, and there's a computer in front of you, and there's on the side there's like a bulletin board with all different options on it, and you can when you're in VR, especially Gear VR, the gimmick is you can look all over.
Sure.
And so this is the same way. You can look all over. And the office wall had the different maps and some different aircraft and some other options that I would become familiar with as I began playing. And so to start off, you are in an ultralight aircraft. Now we used to have one of these things that used to fly around the house back when I was a kid. These little tiny little engine, like basically a motorized glider.
Yeah, glider with a motor.
And when you get in the cockpit, you're sitting on a tarmac. Now the graphics in this aren't realistic, but they're not cartoony. They're somewhere in the middle, I would say. They're sort of like
that's fair.
They're very like upper end Wii type graphics, I would say. And you're in the cockpit, and you don't just fire the sucker up and take off. What you have to do is you have to open the gas port so the gas can flow, just like sort of on your lawnmower.
It's simulation.
Then you've got to hit this magnetic gimmick. Then you've got to throttle the sucker up. You got to hit the button. You're doing all this stuff. Now this would probably be a lot cooler if I could actually, with my hand, which I'm guessing you can on what you've got.
Right.
For me, I had to use the little joystick and try to figure out the controls. So once you get all this done, I fired this sucker up. I took off. My ultralight made an immediate left turn and I careened into the wall. I was like, what happened? Loaded it back up, left turn, careened into the wall. Well, it turns out that for whatever reason, the game doesn't like my joysticks analog. So what I had to do when I played was compensate continuously with the rudder, okay? Which is what was happening was the rudder was sticking, it was ramming in the wall. So I know this
a realistic possible issue.
Oh yeah,
for a plane.
yeah. So I guess you're thinking, well, this isn't starting off. But well, I want to tell you that my experience here was the phone or the game didn't like my joystick. It was hard to buy. It was hard to navigate because it was built for another joystick, an unmentioned one, I might add, and there was no way to go in and redefine the analog controls. So all this stuff hindered me. It was like, what? And I didn't need to hinder me. It was a big pain.
Right.
I got it to work perfectly one time. I got in my cockpit. I fired it up. Bam, 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 bam. I took off, and I was flying. And the sensation was interesting because the way they've got this done is, and this it's funny. I thought this was a glitch or something at first. You look out the central area of your cockpit. Okay, you're in the cockpit, so you can see the structure. You can see through the sides of your eyes that there are walls there. But when you turn your head to look out at them, they just appear. Okay? And I thought to myself, man, this is some janky levels of phono. Well, wait a minute. So anyway, I flew this sucker around, and they don't really give you much instruction. So I flew it around, and I actually landed it, and then nothing happens. I don't know. I was like, what's going on? So I tried to figure out where I was supposed to land, and I found an airport that has a money sign over. You're supposed to land at the airport. I went there, nothing happened. So I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I flew this thing around a lot. But one thing I learned was they had an option on the board over here, and it was like partial. What was it? It was like hidden, partial, or full.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, I wonder if this has something to do with this shading, because it was sort of bizarre. So I said, I don't need full. Bam. Turned it on full. Sure enough, got in the cockpit of the sucker, looked around, totally clear. Looked great. I'm like, here we go. Now we're going to get some flying done, brother. I popped the clutch on that sucker, held down the rudder button, popped that thing up in the air, gained altitude, and almost vomited all over the desk. This was disorienting as all hell. I was dying up here. And I flew this thing around for a while, and I mean, it was a real mixed bag because I'm looking around. I'm like, geez, I'm in the air. It's looking good. It's looking good. But it's so sickening that it's giving me a headache, a real bad one. And I don't normally get motion sickness,
right? Well, you turned off your safety net.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't know. Who knew that those little things? And what I can't figure out is when you're, it's something in your periphery that causes this. It's very strange, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd have told me this, I'd have laughed at you. But I mean, it's with those things just blinking off when you turn your head and being in a wall being there when you don't turn your head. It actually, the effects were totally different. I mean, I was ill, super ill, from doing it. So I took the plane out for some spins. I forced myself to suffer through the pain of driving this thing around. And I can tell you another little issue that I ran into is eventually my I played this for so long that my phone overheated.
Yeah,
which is something that happens a lot.
That's a VR thing.
Yeah, and so I can't sit here and say, "Well, this game is no good." It's actually remarkably disorienting. But I mean, it really does make you feel like you're in a cockpit.
Yeah.
And the added pain in the butt of firing up the gas and the buttons and all that stuff, it does make it more realistic. Again, I think that stuff would have been better suited on another, like a machine where you could actually reach out and flip stuff.
Sure.
But I thought it was really neat. So I never got out of the ultralight, and all the time I played this thing, I never earned enough money to get the next plane I'd like to. The island was really cool. It had buildings. It had a lighthouse. It was surrounded by ocean. You could fly high. You could zoom around stuff. I mean, I buzz bomb stuff. Occasionally, I would run into stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing it, but I ended up having to go back to put the blinders on at the end because it was just hurting me too bad.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the blinders. I don't know the science behind it, but yeah, there are certainly other games that have that.
Yeah. Now, when I was doing research to determine which game to play this week, I wanted to run this past you. I saw people playing a game called Thunderhead and a couple other games, and I was like, these games sound awesome. But it turns out they were using their Gear VR headset to play games from Steam, and these were games that were PC games. They weren't made for the Gear VR, so there must be some sort of gimmick there.
Yeah, you could. I mean, just like anything else, you press the right buttons, you give it the right commands, you can do anything with anything. And they're basically screen sharing their phone from their computer. So I can't imagine that being a tremendous amount of fun, but I know it's possible.
I should mention this was put out by an outfit I've never heard of called Bit Planet Games. Have you ever heard of these guys?
I have
Bit
not.
Planet. And I think this is their big game. But overall, and it's funny, I watched a lot of video. Actually, if you get on YouTube, you can find VR videos that you can watch. And I watched VR videos of people playing this. And the planes have looked pretty cool, and it looked like a lot of fun when you move up the ranks. I think it's going to take you a little while to earn that money, more than a week, that's for sure, to get enough money to actually move on. I couldn't find any cheats for this either. Which, I mean, something else when you are in the ultimate walled garden when you're playing on these VR games on the phone. You can't do jack squat. I was like, man, making fun of save game or something. There's none of that.
Oh, well.
That's all gone.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days. This is what happens when you jump into the future to 2017. It's so walled off, you can't do nothing.
Well, to be fair, it's not like you could go and grab a NES game save back in '85.
Well, that's you got a valid point there. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was, I mean, the joystick problem was really hampered me, and this is the first time I've ever actually Bluetoothed up my joystick. I had a little fob, or what do they call those things? The little, and I've used that. I knew that wasn't going to cut it on this game. But overall, I thought it looked nice. The experience was fun. You did feel like you're finding the ultralight, and if you could get the controls to work properly, I don't think I'd recommend this on the phone. I think this is taxing the phone to the point of no return. My phone actually hard reset one time and didn't come back on until I plugged it in for a while. I thought, man, have I fried my phone this week on ARG Presents? So that would have been a real problem, but I got it back.
For a game recommendation for VR, I think, and this is one that you've played, I remember Smash Hit.
Yeah, that's one.
That's what I would recommend.
That is actually, I almost covered that one. It's sort of a on rails 3D breakout, basically. It's a very strange game where you shoot balls at crystal shapes that are coming around there.
It's really good,
but it's also old, free. It's old game, and I wanted to try something that really challenged.
Sure, I can understand that,
because although that does do a good job. So overall, I give Ultrawings the thumbs up. Again, I paid $10 for it. There's no reason to eBay this one. You can just go get it. And it reviewed well. People seem to like it. I didn't see a lot of reviews of the Gear VR one. I think the Gear VR, which it came out like 2015 or something like that, Brenny. It's been out for a while.
I would say it was somewhere around there.
It's getting long in the tooth. For my purposes, it works great. I like the fact that it doesn't have wires, but probably on a more competent, more modern VR rig, Ultrawings would be a pretty good game, in my opinion. What do you got for us, Brenny?
I brought my all-time favorite multiplayer experience to the table
All
with
right.
Rec Room.
All right, Rec Room, eh?
Yeah, then it is a game that is constantly evolving, but we'll go back to its early beginnings of 2016, which in VR timeline, that's pretty much right at the start. This was developed and published by Against Gravity.
Okay.
You know what else they've done?
Mm-mm.
Nothing, because this is the only thing they've ever done.
Okay.
But let me tell you something. They did it good.
All right.
They did it real good. What is Rec Room? Rec Room is basically like going to the Y. Yeah, that's right. You go to. We always thought it was a high school gym, but it's not. It's supposed to be a resort type affair, and you use this as your hub to interact with others and make your teams and make the games you want to play, and then you go play different games in different settings. It's amazing. Let me explain to you why it's so good. First of all, you can do so many different activities. You can go and do frisbee golf. You can go and do laser tag. You can play paintball. You can go and do these quests that are set up like theater presentations, where you've got cardboard cutouts, and it kind of looks like a performance theater type thing, and the visuals work so perfect. Where you run and you take up swords and shields and bows, and you run through this long quest with up to 4 people, and then they have another version of it where you are in space and you're running a space adventure with lasers and different types of bombs and grenades. And then you've also got bowling, you've got dodgeball, you've got paddleball, you've got 3D charades. You've got all this in one package.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it work, what makes it so unique and so special, is the art direction they took. Because in the game, you are a torso, a head, and hands. And it's got all the things where you can dress up your torso and your head, you wear different hats and all that stuff. But they have facial animations where, based on the volume that you're speaking at, the body motion where your head's tilting, what your hands are doing, it changes your face to be either happy smiles or concerned or sad. So when you're standing there with someone you've never met before, and you are interacting with them and having a conversation with them, you feel like you're standing right there. You can see their facial expressions when they talk. You can hear their voice. It is so perfect in the way that it reacts, the way that it functions. It makes the whole package come together because it is a social environment. You go, you meet people, you meet up with your buddies, and then you decide, well, I'm going to go and play some disc golf today. And you go to the place where you play disc golf, you play a round of disc golf, and it's great. All the games are great, and I'll touch on them a little bit in more detail. And then, if you want to be buddies with the person, you can shake their hands and it adds them to your friends list. You can fist bump them and it'll just add them to your group for the day. There's so much interaction, people interaction in these games, that it makes it feel real and it makes it feel like a social environment. So we'll go through just real quickly. There's so many games that I can't go through all of them in detail, but I do want to touch on a few of them. Their most recent release is Rec Royale. Battle Royale are the big games right now, and this is Rec Royale. You have a camp setting where you run around and you find different guns and health potions and armor to loot, and then you just try to be the last one standing. It does great. It's super popular. Tons of people are playing it right now, and I guess they're kind of attaching onto the whole Battle Royale bandwagon, but it's so easy and so good for this type of game that you can just plop it in and play it. It's great. In the same vein, what they had before that was paintball. And this is where you start on either sides of a field. You have different barriers and forts, and you just go and try to shoot each other with paintball. You've got different types of guns you can pick up, grenades and stuff. And the physics are fun. The movement is either teleport or you can run, and you actually can choose which way it is before you start the game, so it's fair. Playing as two different teams, you can play up to 16 people on a team, or you can go as low as 2 on a team. So you always have people to play with. Another game, 3D charades. You would think charades in VR would be stupid, and it is, but that's what makes it fun. There's a gun, a glue gun, that when you wave it in the air and pull the trigger, it makes shapes, right? That's what you use to make props to act out the charades.
Oh, that is clever, isn't it? Yeah, I like that.
And this is all things that, if you've got friends also with VR headsets, which I do, and you go into these games, you can just immediately play with them, and it's awesome. But you can also meet strangers. Some of them suck. I mean, it's just like any other large open environment on the internet. Sure, you're going to have your kids that just are annoying and whine and you're going to have your jerks that are just cussing and throwing a big fit all the time. But you can just, if you just hold your hand up, like, I don't want to talk to you, they're gone. And you don't have to worry about them ever again.
Well, if only that we worked in the real world.
Yeah.
I'd be walking a planet alone, like Kwai Chang Caine, man.
But Rec Room, like I said, came out in 2016. Their last expansion, which added bowling, came out just a couple months ago. So it's an ever-evolving project, and it is a social interaction like none other I've had in VR, where you've got so much stuff to do, and there's so many people are running around to interact with. An amazing. This is what VR should be experienced. Now, how much do you think Rec Room cost? If you have the whole, let's say you get all the games, you buy. And
they're still releasing games for this. Is that right? Because I'll watch some videos on this, and I don't see the Battle Royale one, so I'm guessing that hasn't been out.
That's only been out for a little while as well.
Okay. Yeah. I would say $27.50.
Nothing. It's absolutely free.
Oh,
every bit of it's
not
free.
bad.
Your costumes you get are free. Anytime you do something of note in the game, and I mean, when I say of note, I mean like play 3 games. It can give it, as mundane as that. You get a box, and you can rip open the box, and tickets fly out, and you use your tickets to buy new costumes or new effects and that sort of thing. These people early on got a $5 million grant to see what they could do with virtual reality
from
many different sources.
Okay, because I would like to call these sources. I've got a few ideas.
And they have taken that money and made a social platform and an interactive platform like no other I've ever seen. And it is so amazing. It's something that, well, first off, if you own VR, you have to get it. You have to get it. There's no reason not to get it. It's playable on PlayStation, Oculus, the Vive, everything, all the major platforms.
Can I get it?
You actually can. Controversially, they have just released the 2D version of Rec Room. I think it's supposed to be sort of a can we get more faces into this so they understand what it is, so maybe they'll go virtual with it. It's still in a beta test phase right now. I haven't personally looked at it at all, and it is controversial because 2D people playing with 3D people, ones are going to have advantages over the other. So hopefully they actually separate the party at some point, or at least let you know that you're playing with 2D people. But it will add more faces, more interactions. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. So we'll have to see.
just watching what I saw in this, my first thought was Wii Sports Resort. You know, and there's a lot of Wii-ness to this.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
a lot of the torsos. That's all straight out of. I mean, that stuff's pretty much now the face thing. I'll grant you, that's pretty original.
It's so good.
But I mean, you've got. I mean, if you boil this thing down, you got frisbee golf, you got bowling. This is all stuff that came in Wii Sports Resort, isn't it? I mean.
Sort of.
All that's a lot of the stuff you mentioned.
Those two things did.
I watched some of the games on this. What do you? It's a collection of sports games.
No. No, you're completely wrong.
Okay.
That's like saying any bowling game is a Wii game.
Right,
that's
but I'm saying
stupid.
this is another VR game that's a collection of mini games. I mean, it is though, right?
No, this is.
Is it a collection of mini games?
At its heart, no. This is a social game. This is not. The games are almost secondary to the experience. They really are. It's all about going and meeting people, and then you go and do an activity. Uh-huh. What that activity is almost meaningless to the rest of the experience of how you meet people in VR.
I mean, I'm not killing the game. It's free, for God's sakes. You can't. If you're giving it away, it's great. But I'm just saying, for $5 million grant, I would have tried to come up with something a little more cohesive. I mean. A chat room to have some games.
No,
I mean,
you're so wrong.
I haven't. Listen, I'm not killing it. I'm just saying.
Here's the thing.
Why? You know, you got to admit this is what plagues VR. More mini games. A lot of these
absolutely
things
not.
Okay, go ahead.
You're so off base. I can't even believe you're thinking this.
Go ahead.
What is? You even said it yourself. Oh, it'd be great if I can go and see my family in VR and interact with them. That's what this is.
Well, that's not exactly what I had in mind.
I had. Me, a buddy of mine from West Virginia, a buddy of mine from Ohio, and another guy down the street, all playing together, bringing us closer together, where we could interact, we could high-five each other, and it actually did stuff. We were playing Frisbee. It brought us together, and we play games every weekend. So when we have rec room weekends, which we still have, that is the tightest I feel with the group in the form of social interaction, because you feel physically there with them, as opposed to a Wii game where you're just waving your hand, sitting on the couch.
Well, you are physically with them when you play those. Physically, they're there. Because you can't play those online. You got to be there for those.
And you know what? That means I couldn't play that.
So
with my friends in Ohio.
Say, just by the fact that you can play the Wii Resort style games online, that right there is pretty cool. I mean, I'm not killing it. I'm just saying.
But you're not getting it.
I would like to see.
You're not getting it. If you got it, you'd be like, I understand.
I'm looking.
You obviously do not understand.
I think what's available now in virtual reality, this fits right nicely. Just this type of game fits in great. But you know, I've got $5 million to spend. I want to see some AAA awesome crap that I haven't seen before. Where's my freaking? I want something super awesome. I want something that's like, you know, looks not like they're. I don't want something that they sort of lifted from the Wii. I want something with awesome graphics.
Here's what you have. Here's your gaming market. Okay, let's say this is the span of everyone who plays games. Okay, and then you reduce it down to the people who have VR. Okay, Now what you're talking about means you're gonna have to have literally the most cutting edge super system that exists. And there goes your audience.
Listen, they got a $5 million grant. What do they care? It's free money. They're free money.
Aaron, they didn't get the $5 million grant to make what you're talking about. They made it to make a social platform.
I'm just saying. That was bizarre to hear that part of the story. Listen, I think it's great. It looks great.
You are the problem that VR has.
Here we go.
You are the problem that VR has.
I want some action.
I want the best thing ever now.
That's right. Listen, they're not going to sell this stuff until they get a top shelf game.
They've already sold it. It's already being sold.
Listen, you can't deny the fact that VR knows
when Palm came out, did you say, well, this is great, but where's my 3D bump map textured? No, it's all about growing.
See, this is where we disagree.
You're right.
Because I think you're not going to grow VR until you've got something that your average Joe Blow, Joe Q Public, like myself, is going to be like, holy sweet, good God Almighty, that looks like the best thing ever. I got to get me some of that. And with all due respect to Rec Room, because I mean, I'm not sat down and put the stuff on and played it. I'm just watching videos for it. And it may be awesome. It may be awesome. I'm not killing it. But Rec Room, when I look at it, I don't think to myself, good God almighty, I got to go get me some of that. I think to myself, okay, that looks pretty fun.
And thankfully, people like you don't pick up Rec Room. And people who want to have
people
fun,
like me pick it up,
have
for
an
it's free.
experience, and for the interaction, those are the people who normally pick up Rec Room, and I'm happy for that. Get the wheel.
My passionate, delusional friend. Delusional man. Let's
Get the wheel.
All right, what do we add this week, Brent?
I don't, Text Adventures.
Text Adventures.
Oh my God, are you sure we can play Text Adventures? It doesn't have the highest PD, the highest top quality polygon count.
Would you just spin the wheel? Now, normally we've been getting the exact same thing we put on the wheel, which is bizarre when that happened.
And I think we might have done it today.
And the winner is?
Electronic board game.
Okay, now this is going to be interesting. Electronic board games. Now,
yes.
Brent, as we shift away from the VR into the electronic board games, do you have a thought on the field of these, and how many were there, and which ones?
First, let's define electronic board game.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
An electronic board game is any game that you play, physical game that has an electronic element, a battery-powered element.
All right, enough said. Okay, so that's fine. So I've already got one in mind, and I'm sure you probably do as well.
Yes.
It might be the same exact one, in fact.
There's several that you could pick from.
So that should be fun. And we actually have played more than a few of these back in the day.
Growing up, and even, I mean, I play board games all the time, although they certainly don't have an electronic element. I see games that do have that as well.
I've got a couple good ideas on this, so that should be fun. So join us next week for some awesome, hopefully, electronic board games. We want to send out some kudos. You bring my phone there, Brenny.
Alrighty.
We got, we ran our arcade challenge a couple weeks ago, Brenny.
Yes.
As you'll recall, and we actually have received a few offerings to your art project. You will talk about your art project for a second with the tokens.
Depending on the response that we get, I would like to have a mural put up of tokens from around the world. Tokens, coins, anything that you use to play arcade games back when you played arcade games. If anything we can get sent in, I plan on making a double-sided mural of them to let people who come to Amigo Studio East to play in the arcade kind of look at this and allow us to say, you know what, this one came from, England, this one came from out west, and just add a little bit more ARG goodness to the arcade and really let people understand that gaming is a global experience. Everyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s played arcade games, and it makes the world a little bit smaller when you think about it like that.
Yeah, and and please don't break the bank.
Don't send like thousands of dollars.
And also you don't have to, please don't take a bath on shipping.
Yeah.
But we actually received a couple packages this week from our friend Roland and our good friend Steve. Both these guys are great fellows, and they've already set us up with some tokens. In fact, after the show, I'll break these out for you and have your look over. So it'll be a lot of fun. Now, one more thing I want to talk about before we shut down the ship here is that we have finally finalized. It took a little longer. We finally finalized these the arcade fun packages, and I'm hoping to get these things in the mail tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning at the latest. So you three winners will be receiving your goodies in due haste. So, and we do appreciate everyone entering. And by the way, Brent has completed the first lovely addition to the arcade, which he was showing off earlier. And if you were in live chat, I have to say, it was quite nice, very awesome, very impressive piece of kit that he put together there. So we'll have a good fun. We'll have a good time putting that up.
Yeah.
So next week, electronic board games. We will have a good time with that. And so until next time, be gone.
Beep.
Ooh. Keep doing weird stuff. Keep doing it. Keep doing weird stuff. Hey, did we? Oh no, we did go under an hour. Holy cow! Finally, it had to finally happen. It finally happened. Well, so you're very passionate about your VR.
Well,
man. But I mean, you've got to understand there are similarities.
As someone in chat pointed out,
yeah.
If you don't experience VR, you don't understand VR.
Well, listen.
And
you were taking everything I said as like a hate crime. It wasn't. I'm just saying you can't. The thing is, you can't deny what I was saying is true. You can't deny. No,
yes, I can.
No, you
because
can't.
They weren't. They were tasked. The grant money was to make a social experience in VR. It wasn't to make a game even.
I want to see a AAA title. That's what I want. Elite Dangerous. Like
go play Resident Evil.
Okay, well, I don't have a PS4.
Well,
with that
okay.
Stuff. I don't know anyone that does.
Let me tell you something. You were sitting there saying, "I want the thing that says makes me go out and buy it." That is what Resident Evil was.
Okay, maybe I'll look at Resident Evil. If it's, I don't have a PS4. It'd be a huge investment, but I would if it's good. I've heard good things about it. And the PS4 thing, I thought was going to be a big dud. That was the word on the street. It was going to be a big dud, and it's actually they've done pretty well with it, haven't they? I mean, for the most part.
Pixel says our new slogan should be "Keep doing weird stuff."
What? Yes, there you go. There's a new catchphrase.
Picard, Pixels, Pure. We didn't shout these people out.
Yeah.
Steve, Mohawk.
Oh, Steve's in. That's cool. Mohawk. I like that.
Geo's Lake, or possibly Geo's Slake. I'm gonna go with Geo's Lake. I like that better.
Who's lighting up your phone during the show?
John.
Boat of Carshaller. Yeah. What do you want?
Praise
be to God.
Praise Betsy. You are new, I think. Welcome if you're still in chat.
Didn't you butcher her name? Whose name was it you butchered last week?
All the names, the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Why are you trying to make me read out names?
Because you've got the gimmick right there. That's why I don't have the gimmick. You got the gimmick right there, man.
All right.
I'm hoping no one sent us a review for these.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. Okay, thank God, because I didn't think about it.
Can you take a look at Bluehost when you get a sec? I don't even know what that is.
This boat?
Yes.
Boat. Hey, calling you during the show. You need to beat him down. He should know better. Now you need to return the favor, Brenny, and give him what for. Oh, well, electronic board games should be interesting. I'll be interested to hear what you want to do. I know exactly what I want to do, and I'm sure it's pretty obvious.
Well, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to shut her down. We are done for the day. Thanks for joining us. Sorry we were a few minutes late. But what?
Dale is logging into City.
Yeah.
I'm logging into the main game now. 1 minute wait to get in at the moment. Never mind, shutting down.
Yeah. I know no one cares, but our buddy has put his own City of Heroes server up, and it's glorious.
Yeah.
We tried to log on to the public servers last night, and we were met with I was in queue. I was 1948 out of 1950.
Yeah, I was above 2,000 when I tried to do it at 1 a.m. our time.
One would wonder what the wait time is on that many people. Infinite?
Yeah, it ain't going to happen.
So it worked. The private servers have worked great.
Why go anywhere else? I mean, no. You know what? I take that back.
Come on, you love social interaction, Brent. You love that.
I completely understand the upside of playing on a public server, especially if you're alone.
Or a loser basement type.
No, just so you can see all the other people jumping around.
You're really building this great. You can see a bad guys doing that.
No.
Would you wait? I don't care how lonely or bored you are. Would you wait 2,000 to do some people to get online?
Well, you have to put that in time because I don't know how long that is.
That's a long time. All right, wave goodbye to the people. Blow them kisses, Brent. We'll see you guys. Oh, there's more.
See you, everybody.
You idiot. Goodbye.